The date was 66 AD. The 7 years of war with Rome that would annihilate the temple-centered way of life for Judaism had begun. The catastrophic events that would transpire in those 7 years would never again be experienced by man on the face of the earth. As Jesus said, it would be a great tribulation such as was not since the beginning of the world, to this time no, nor ever shall be. Since the city and the temple were crowded with people from all over the known world who came to offer sacrifices during the Passover season, the death toll would be extremely high. John, in Revelation, simply recorded the sound of the first trumpet of the 7 angels of the 7th seal which stood before God. The first angel sounded, and there followed hail and fire mingled with blood, and they were cast upon the earth, and the third part of trees was burnt up, and all green grass was burnt up. The great tribulation had begun, and the darts, the javelins, and the stones from the war engines of Rome were maiming and slaughtering the people of Jerusalem. Unfortunate for Israel, there would follow much more devastation, for John recorded. And the second angel sounded, and as it were a great mountain burning with fire was cast into the sea. And the third part of the sea became blood. And the third part of the creatures which were in the sea and had life died. And the third part of the ships were destroyed. In the early years of the war, a group of Jews had recaptured the coastal city of Joppa, which had been destroyed earlier. Of course, Rome would soon put an end to all Jewish resistance in the north. The invasion of Galilee resulted in more than 100,000 Jews being killed or sold into slavery. The slaughter of the rebelling Jews in Galilee was so severe that Josephus reported the waters of the Sea of Galilee turned to blood. The sounding of the second trumpet of the 7 trumpets of the 7th seal in Revelation had come to pass. The devastation of calamity after calamity grew to such catastrophic bitterness among the inhabitants of Jerusalem that life itself was no longer cherished. As the third angel sounded its trumpet, as John recorded, many would die from the bitterness of the water of life they were being forced to drink. With the army of Rome outside the walls of the city, the infighting between the various factions within the city, and the deadly struggle for food among themselves, the misery of Jerusalem grew with each passing day. The actual word picture of the trumpet of the third angel proclaimed, "And the third angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp, and it fell upon the third part of the rivers, and upon the fountains of waters. And the name of the star is called wormwood." Original meaning, as a type of bitterness, that is, figuratively, calamity. And the third part of the waters became wormwood, and many men died of the waters because they were made bitter. The great tribulation had taken hold of the city. As the angel predicted, many died from the bitterness of the water of life they were forced to drink. The inhabitants of the city were faced with the onslaught of terror from 3 directions. The people of Jerusalem not only faced the many terrors of the invading army of Rome, but unfortunately, they were also caught in the middle of the ferocious infighting between the Sadducees, Pharisees, and Zealots for control of the city. There were continual sallies made one against another, with the siege of the Zealot-controlled temple by the other factions being the most deadly. The infighting for control of the temple to remove John of Nero, who had set up his throne within the temple, left 12,000 of the inhabitants of Jerusalem dead. Perhaps the deadliest of the three-pronged onslaught of terror that the inhabitants of Jerusalem faced was the famine and pestilence brought on by the siege of the city. Along with the population of Jerusalem being enlarged by thousands of people coming into the city for the Passover, and the Zealots, in an attempt to get the inhabitants of Jerusalem to join with them to throw off the shackles of Rome, actually burning a large quantity of corn, which, according to Josephus, would have been sufficient for a siege of many years. A food shortage of epic proportion plagued the people of the city. So many people died from starvation that the dead bodies could not be burned. The great tribulation inflicted upon Israel, especially in what they perceived to be their holy city with its holy temple, may very well be one of man's darkest hours. It was as if the light of moral decency within man had been snuffed out. The tortures and atrocities existent upon fellow human beings can only be described as insanity. The fourth angel, in a graphic word picture, allegorically described the loss of the heavenly influence upon man. Using similar language as found elsewhere in the scriptures to indicate moral darkness, the fourth angel sounded the trumpet, and the third part of the sun was smitten, and the third part of the moon, and the third part of the stars, so as the third part of them was darkened, and the day shone not for a third part of it, and the night likewise. The atrociousness of both Romans and Jews in the Great Tribulation amply demonstrated the darkness of moral insight in their lives. Symbolically, the sun was smitten. It does not seem that things could become any more severe for the inhabitants of Jerusalem than what they were currently experiencing. However, after the fourth trumpet had sounded, John recorded that he saw and heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven. The angel was saying with a loud voice, "Woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth by reason of the other voices of the trumpet of the three angels which are yet to sound." According to the voice of the angel, greater grief was coming. When the fifth angel sounded with the first woe, John recorded that he saw a star fall from heaven unto the earth. John added, from the vision of the fifth angel, that to him, the star, was given the key of the bottomless pit. With the key, he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit as the smoke of a great furnace. In turn, the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit. The heavenly influence would continually be darkened for man by that which arose out of the pit. With death being the bottomless pit, and the messenger of death now set free to roam the streets of the city of Jerusalem to fully destroy, there would not be any place in the city that had no dead bodies in it, but what was entirely covered with those that were killed either by the famine or the rebellion. As calamity fostered upon the inhabitants of Jerusalem by the angel of death led Josephus to say that neither did any other city ever suffer such misery, nor did an age ever breed a generation more fruitful in wickedness than this was from the beginning of the world. Jesus predicted that it would be a great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be.